state of mind. Making it shine, bringing past lives as a vivid signs. Remnants of ancient civilizations, unveiling cathedral secrets, causing revelation. Realizing we just alien soul. Didn't die all descendants of the Tarian gold. Between men and falls, so life has got you down and in the trenches. Such a mention, grip of gratitude for so much.
Liberty Uncensored newspaper here. We got SAS, otherwise known as Elamental. And first thing I want to know is how you came up with the name Elemental as your MC name.
That's a good question. Well, I've always had a resonance and connection to the elemental forces of the planet, you know, fire, wind, water, and earth. And I believe that those forces are actually manifested in these etheric entities that exist on the planet in certain places where the energy is right for them to be held. Anyway, that's not really why I picked the name, but it took a lot of thought, and there's a lot of like meaning behind the name as well. Like Ella means like God in Greek, I think, and you know, so like kind of like the God mind. But it also means in Hebrew the mind of the oak tree, right? And it also, like in more modern terms, it's like ELA because it's spelled ELA mental, not ELE, right? And the ELA is the English language arts mind. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a lot of wordplay with that one.
And how long have you been using that as a moniker? Is that your first moniker that you've used, your first MC name, or have you gone through a whole bunch? And
man, back in the days of Virginia, dude, when we were running around just trying to create something, because there was like no support in the community for any kind of music like this, or really music in general. The culture in Northern Virginia is pretty dull, like near DC, you know. It just wasn't all that. And
heart of Babylon.
Yeah. So I ran with like different names when I first started, back when I was like, you know, late teenager. Like Fixation, I think was the first one. Then it became like Icon, like EYECON, which is funny because we're actually trying to work with this new dude that we just met recently up in Portland, named No C, like KNOWSEE, which is kind of a similar wordplay to Icon. I thought that was funny, but yeah, I've been using Elemental for like better part of 10 years.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, and when did you start making music? Like, how'd you get started in making music? What was your inspiration, and how long have you been doing it? And
well, I don't know. I got into hip hop just, I think, simply because, you know, I'm a kid of the 90s. And, you know, growing up in that era, that was the golden age of hip hop. You know, that's when all the big artists come through and, you know, dropped all those massive tunes, like just hits that I'll remember forever. You know, but like, my parents were really resistant to me, like, listening to that kind of music, you know what I mean? Because they were all about, like, you know, listening to Billy Joel and, you know, stuff like that. And they did, like, some good stuff, you know, but it wasn't, for the most part, a lot of what they liked wasn't really what I liked. I remember this one time, I pulled we had like these old speakers from the 70s in my basement with like those old, like, you know, receivers and shit from back then that nobody was really ever using them. And one day when my parents were gone, I pulled all that shit up in my room, 2 floors up, and just set everything up, plugged in all the wires, and started bumping hip hop. Man, my mom came in and gave it to me, yo, like, you know. But yeah, I think just growing up in that area is just, or in that time frame, excuse me, is what really gave me the influences to kind of like, I don't know, I've just always been drawn to it. I've been drawn to like the poetry side of it, the beats, you know, the culture itself, everything that's tied into hip hop. I love it. You know, it's pretty easy to get into when you grow up in that era, in my opinion. But
how many years have you been making music?
Let's see, I started when I was like 17, 18. So I'm 30, I just turned 37. So yeah, it's a good 20 years now, right?
Wow, yeah. Yeah, I was just saying in another of these interviews that, you know, 20 years is mastery of a craft.
Right.
And if you're 20 years deep on any craft, you know, from old school blacksmithing to learning how to code to learn anything, you are the master of your craft. And and so it's always like it's always amazing to hear the evolution of music from where people started to where they ended up.
Right.
So was it always hip hop, or did you dabble in other things?
It's funny, actually, when I first started doing music, I was in a band. Like, that was my first thing that we did, like when we actually started something real. I did do like solo tracks on my own, although it was like almost impossible to record them. I got really lucky one time because I just had this guy that like lived through the woods behind my parents' house right before I moved out of there. He had a recording studio that he had set up in his basement, and I was like, oh my God, we finally found a place to record some stuff. And, you know, at the time, he wasn't even like the best sound engineer or producer or anything. Like, you know, I listen to those old tracks now that we never released, and it's just like the production's all off. You know, like the dB levels, the vocals are too low or too high everywhere. The instrumentals aren't mixed right. Like, it's just, you know, but like at the same time, like we were still putting out creative stuff. And I think our band was called State of Mind. is what we called it. And like we played a festival called Nomadic Roots, the first one that was in Virginia, and that was one of my other friends throwing that festival. That ended up being a really successful festival. They threw it for a few years. I think the dude stopped doing it because it was a lot for him. But yeah.
So your journey's taking you from one side of the country to the other side of the country, because
Yeah.
you're out in Portland now.
Yeah, that's
So-
right. That's kind of why I left. That's like one of the biggest reasons that I left there. I mean, combined with like just the people in general there, everyone was like fucking off on bad drugs and like, you know, doing all sorts of shady shit. And no one had any sort of like pride in their community. There was pretty much no culture there, especially with music, like I said before.
Has
You know,
that turned on its head? Have you found the
Oh
community?
yeah,
that's...
definitely. When I made that move, but it wasn't just that. Like I was tired of being persecuted for being, being a cannabis enthusiast and sometimes looking like a hippie when I'm walking around. Geez, you get ridiculed. Look, people give you sideways looks because you're wearing a tie-dye shirt around there. People just have sticks up their asses, turned sideways, like they're rich as hell, but they just like are for some reason super unhappy. And
Well,
yeah,
there seems to be a corollary. They say you're like happiness does increase with money to a certain point. It's like up until you hit like six figures or something like that. And when you go, the amount of happiness that you get at six figures is the same at 50 million or a billion. Like your happiness doesn't increase with money. Your happiness increases with the amount of resources that keep you sustained in life.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. And that's what we were talking about, like the difference between America and Mexico too. A lot of people like have this perception of what that is, and it's like, it's really like, people think that we're better off than people in Mexico, right? And like, yes, in some ways, maybe we are, but then you look at like the homelessness rate down here and how there's pretty much just no homeless people because people value family that much here. And it's like, okay, well, that's like a big deal. You know what I mean? Like,
and there's small,
it's not just about money.
And small businesses
like,
exist in Mexico still.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Especially with
culture
COVID, like all the small businesses getting shut down. There's a billion small businesses in Mexico. So like you want to start a small business in Mexico, it's not that hard. You want to start a small business in the United States? Holy shit, you gotta have that great credit score, you gotta have backers, you gotta have also everything lined up and ready to go, all your ducks in a row, and you gotta work your ass off for a long time at a really shit job if you don't have a silver spoon in your mouth when you're born.
Yeah, I mean that's how it was when I was there, dude. Like it didn't matter whether I was working or not working. It's like whether you're making money or not. It seems like you can always just barely make it. You know what I mean? And it's like when you're not working, there's a few times I ended up homeless there, and we were like gas jugging and trying to like spange money for a little bit of gas to put in our cars, and maybe we could afford like a gram of herb, to smoke that day, which oftentimes would be not that good because of the area, and then you go pay $20 for it and they give you 0.8, and you're like, that was the life, and it just got really old. And it's because I was living in one of the 8 of the 10 richest counties in the country or something like that. And it wasn't suited for people like us. So when I eventually made that move, though, everything flipped on its head, like everything. And I think me and Squirrel were talking about this before, like just thinking about like how we were just like street rats in Virginia from like back then to like where we are now, and just how much abundance we have manifested through, just pursuing the abundance and like being in those communities and like, you know what I mean? Like having that mindset and developing that mindset more and more and reinforcing it over time to let the abundance just flow through you and release and let it come to you and being that vessel and source and tower of abundance that like isn't just like abundance that you're holding in for yourself all the time and just trying to greedily sit on a mountain of gold like a dragon. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, you just let the abundance flow through you and out to everyone around you in your community, and it always comes back, and then your abundance channels grow, and it's all synergistic and flowing in circles. It's not, as long as it's all the right people in the right community, like it really does like resonate this sort of like web of abundance, that can just keep growing.
It's sort of the same kind of concept as breaking generational karma. At some point, somebody comes along and they say, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not playing this like thing. My father was an alcoholic, so I have to be an alcoholic kind of thing. No, I don't have to do that anymore. And they break it, and then they break it for their children, and it keeps going. So it sounds to me like you broke, it might not even have been a generational cycle, but a cycle for you. And you started making something better. You kept building on top of it. And everybody can do that. Everybody can go from where they're at now, decide to look a new way about them, start walking in a new direction, and
literally,
and
like I moved 3,000 miles across the country to make this happen, and it was the best decision of my life. And I was so afraid to do it before I did it. You know what I mean? The whole mentality where I'm from is like, oh, we all want to get out of here, but we want to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z before we leave, and we never can get to maybe we'll get to A or B, but never see your X, Y, Z, because it just keeps you trapped there. The finances of it, the whole mentality of it, and I had just eventually had enough. I remember I totaled my truck that I had just bought, that I'd saved forever to get, and it was a really nice truck, and I was pissed because I just hit a divot in the road and it like popped me up, and just it was totally out of my control. I wasn't even going that fast. And as soon as that happened, I pretty much lost everything at that point. I was like, I'm done. I'm out of here. It's like, I have nothing holding me here anymore. This is ridiculous. And I just, hopped on a plane. Squirrel had moved out there. He got an apartment. He had an extra room, so I moved in with him. And then our other homie Marbles moved out, and my partner at the time, Ginger, moved out eventually. We came back and threw a festival, I remember, when we came and got her back in Virginia. And that was like the last thing we did there. And then and it's just like, I've just been like visiting family for the most part. But when I first moved out here, though, what really got me into hip hop was when I went to Monolith Festival. That was the first festival that I went to in Oregon or in the West Coast at all. It was like a smaller type party event in the woods. It was really nice property, kind of hilly, but I met a lot of cool people there, and I'll never forget this. That's the first time I saw Ancient Soul. And Ancient Soul is a band. They're not a band anymore, but all the people that were in that band are super successful for music and still like collaborate and talk and do different projects. It was like Talilo Marfil's band. He's like a huge MC in Oregon. He's like Filipino. He has that really fast-paced style rap that everybody loves. Him and Larissa Birdseye, they were both in that band. They did a track together. I don't know when, but it just got played on the big screen at the Blazers game, like downtown. So, there's been a huge news. He started the Ascending Flow program for troubled youth to help mentor kids and emphasize education on art and martial art and music and other creative practices, and finding out what the kids want to do and helping them understand what they want and being creative and how that can help manifest abundance for them throughout the rest of their life. Like he's doing crazy stuff. But anyway, he was back in that band. It was like him and then Simon, and there was like a few other people I knew in that band. And I remember seeing him just being jaw-dropped at how just amazing all that talent was. And it kind of semi-reminded me of when I was in a band too, because it was sort of like that. Everybody in the band was so talented, but also at the same time, everybody in that band had very different like genres that they liked better than other genres. So there was a lot of like collaborative clash whenever we were trying to make music. Even though it would be really good when we finished them, there'd be a lot of like arguing. So I don't know if that was what happened or what with them, but I've seen them later in the woods, and I just started telling them, hey, I'm an MC. I moved out here basically for because all the reasons I told you, and gave them the spiel, and they're like, throw down a verse for me, and I threw it down, and they're like, oh yeah, we got you, bro. And then they linked me up with Aaron Miller, and we started doing recordings, and that's how I eventually manifested my first album. That was kind of a compilation of a bunch of different songs that I had manifested over the years. There was like 20 of them. I picked like 12, and I didn't ever release the other ones because I didn't feel like they were good enough to go on there. But yeah, the first album was completely free because I remixed 2 of the songs were remixed instrumentals from like other artists that I really like. I think one was DJ Quick and one was a Method Man song. We did like the tear it off thing, but like changed it to breaking down the walls, like tear the roof off, if you ever heard that one. But yeah, we gave that album away completely for free. I never charged a dime for it anywhere ever, just because of that, just out of respect. But last year I produced an album called Power of Truth. My homie Socolo's on a lot of those tracks. There's one track with Elias Clay, one track with Torrin Frost called Dance with the Ancients. That's where we're actually going to perform here on Sunday. And all that, RLM Music was the name of the record label that DeLilo and Aaron started that really got me into hip-hop in Portland and in Oregon on the West Coast. But then it turned into this whole other thing where I just had an idea, and now it's like a whole group thing where we got like pretty much 15 hip-hop artists all collaborating all the time. We're about to drop a 20-song album, which we had to split into a two-part release just because it's too many songs, and the way the music industry is now with the algorithms and the way you release things, it would get drowned out. People's attention spans, they don't have that for 20 songs. So we're releasing the first 10. And then apparently, before we even release part 2, we're going to release a whole Morelia EP, because we just like basically made a whole EP since we've been here in the last week and a half, or however long it's been. It's fucking stupid. There's already a couple music videos that Torrin made. We're going to make another one with everyone on it that's in our hip hop house. All the MCs are going to be on it. We're going to make a video for that too. And he's got the theme. It's like, what was it? Santa Maria, the clocks are stopped at 4:20. He says it in Spanish or something. It's so beautiful. Like, yeah, like
all the clocks at their house around 4:20
That's
time.
Right. Kenny took the batteries out.
Yeah.
So, and our bong cold in the song hold. You know what I mean? He's got a fortress over there.
So you went from a place of kind of not knowing what to do, but liking music, getting out of a bad situation into a great situation, finding inspiration from the people around you, to developing your own methodology and business plan, kind of organizational plan of where you want to go, and making it happen. Because now you got Ken and Merlin, and and a bunch of amazing artists all working together, creating music in a collaborative way. Sometimes just 2 or 3 of them, right? And then sometimes everybody together.
Right.
There's different.
There's mixes of all different kinds of like combinations of artists on all the different tracks. Some's just one person, person, three person. Some have like almost everybody on it. We have a couple tracks on this album we're releasing that has like 8 or 9 artists on it. It's pretty nuts.
All amazing
Like,
individually, and
yeah.
when you put them all together, it's like anytime you get a masters of a craft all together in one place, you're
Right.
going to come out with something amazing.
Right.
And,
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of the idea behind it. I'm always been a fan of collaboration over individualism in music, because when you provide these alternate styles that complement each other, it's just so much better with the end product that you're creating. And that's the whole goal, is to create good music, right? That people want to listen to and be inspired by, and help heal and create synergism between Gaia and humanity. At least that's our mission with music, or mine especially. But it's and also you were mentioning about the business plan side of things, and that is more of a thing now, because like making music and doing this has never been about money for me, and I'm pretty sure for any of us in this group. It's just like it's always been about passion and putting that, immortalizing these messages for future generations to hear, that are ready to hear it, because a lot of people aren't ready to hear a lot of the things that we're saying. But when things get worse, when we're gone, they're gonna listen to this stuff and be like, hey, like, oh, okay, here's the guide to what we have to do, and that's kind of like why we're doing this. But at the same time, it's been so long of making music, and we've all invested like in stupid amounts of money into like the production, I don't even want to get into the hardware and all the mastering costs and everything that's gone into everything. It's just like we're just starting to get thrifty with it, to where we can find ways to make money with the music, not necessarily off the music directly, although sometimes we do sell albums, but it's not like we're making money on those. We're oftentimes printing those and giving away more than what we're selling, and it's not really making up the cost. Although that will change, especially because we have this whole collective promotion thing going with everyone, and everyone's promoting each other in the group and individually and stuff. If you look on our website, kinofmerlin.com, that's like kin, like family, go on the Meet the MCC section in that tab, and there's like 1 to 4 music videos, or videos of every single artist that's in our group, like examples of their music and video art. We're getting our stuff together. We've been working our asses off. Everyone's been doing their part. Ryan came in with those donation QR code posters and stuff. Like, I didn't even have time to finish that, because I was sitting there trying to scramble finish all the mixes for the mastering studio for part 1 of the album release and the group release, and have something ready here. But man, it's been nuts, but it's been fun, and it's been amazing. It's been quite a journey and a roller coaster. And there's a lot of things that have happened, especially recently, like outside of music, that have really messed with me. And I've been like going through like a lot of therapies and pretty much everything I can think of to attempt at processing some of that stuff.
Have you been able to put that into your music? Has that been an electrical charge that you've been able to charge up your music with?
Here's the thing. Yes, but like there's a couple of things I wrote. One I actually released so I could date it, but I never promoted it, and I don't even want to say what it is. It's a song I wrote about a place and a person, and it's like has this very like deep language that only really one person would understand the depth of. On the surface, it's mostly a song about a place and maybe some experiences in each spots there, but it's a lot more than that. I've been out of respect, I haven't promoted it yet, because I felt like the person that it's meant to hear it isn't ready to hear it. So then there's like another thing too I made recently where it's a similar thing that I haven't like recorded or released it all yet. This is stuff I want to get out, but honestly I've been trying to keep my mind state in sort of a different place and concentrate on the crew and what we're doing in my music, because it like keeps my mind in a better place, so I can be stable and be here for everybody. Because through all that, for a moment I thought, oh crap, I got all these people depending on me, I'm about to go through something insane, and like I don't know if I should be in this position right now. But I've my football coach back in high school when I used to play football would always have this philosophy where he's like, if you're not physically injured, you need to play through the pain, because it's for your team. It's not about you. Like, what I mean? If you're hurting, get out there and do your job for everybody else, and yourself.
Also, it's a catharsis to continue on with life.
Right.
I mean, you can always go through the mourning stage of whatever it is, the 5 stages or whatever. All that. So you can always go through the mourning and everything like that. Give yourself space and time for that on your own time, and then bust your ass and making something happen with the energy that's created from that. Because there's a lot of energy that comes from the mourning and all that other stuff that
I mean, destroy to build and all that, and I get that. This one has just been an intense process, and
sure.
It's something that I hope will manifest to a better situation soon, because I feel that is the case and is always going to be the case. Sometimes you just gotta like work on your patience and focus on what's good in your life and be super grateful. Every morning when I wake up, sometimes I have these thoughts of like, oh God, I don't like certain things that have happened and they're realities of my life, right? But I always come back and recheck it. I'm like, no, I'm grateful. This is why I'm grateful. Today is going to be a good day.
Yep.
You know, I have to put that, even if I don't feel that way, I have to ground that intention like every single morning to have a chance.
Do you have
like,
a routine for like exercising and keeping?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll be honest. I've been thrown off hella bad the past like 3 weeks because I've been doing this move where I've lived at one house for 7 years, basically, like on and off on some points. And then having that much stuff and moving, you know, basically into a totally different area in the woods, not in the city, has been crazy. And like, so I haven't been in the gym as much. But typically I go to the gym like 3-4 times a week. I'm running in there, you know, up to a mile or two. And then I'm, you know, lifting, you know, doing bench, you know, various like machines and free weight lifts. And then I hit the spa and sauna in there.
Keeping the body and the mind strong.
Yeah, you know, like, and that's especially when you're going through traumatic stuff like that and really bad like PTSD from something really heavy. It's really good to like put the absolute best things you can in your body when you're eating and drinking stuff, all that, like, and also just staying active constantly, even if you feel like shit. Because if you don't, your endorphins are going to get fucked up even more than they already are from the trauma, and you have no chance, you know, to get anywhere anytime soon. So like, that's the main reason I just kept up with all that stuff and just kept moving. It was just like my way of dealing with it. I mean, a lot of times, like even with the music, I couldn't even make music for like pretty much a month and a half straight, like when all that was going on. So I was doing everything else I could think of, you know, and organizing and doing what was there when I had the energy for it.
Well, I think it's all about like, you know, life has all of its crests and troughs, and we're making our way through it. And some people, when they hit the trough, the moment of the trough, they go and they follow the curve and they go all the way down through it, and it's painful and it's terrible, it's horrible, and then the moment comes and they're rising up and they hit the crest and it's beautiful, it's wonderful.
Right.
I think the point of like finding balance in all of that is that if you can remain equanimous with your like in a peaceful state while you're going through this, so you're kind of here and the waves are coming in like this, but your perception, you're keeping yourself kind of on this straight course with your goals in mind, and with all the things, your daily like practices in mind as you go forward with that. You can ride through the troughs, and you can also remain in that same place at the crest so that you maintain your path rather than like, because you know you get real high on something, sometimes you get the lazy thing after. It's like, oh, I succeeded, so I did so good on this thing, now I don't have to worry about things so much. But then your trough comes and it's like, oh shit, I should have stayed on my course. So if you can just stay that course, that equanimity, that balance with all of those events of life, I think that's really the key. And so I want to bring it to another place. I want to know what your message is. So like, and if it's evolved over time. So what is it that you want people to hear from your music and remember, and what's the message you're trying to put out into the world?
I want people, over everything else, to get from our music the inspiration to further co-create more synergism between Gaia, our Earth Mother, and humanity as a whole, because we are meant to be symbiotic organisms with this planet, which also, by the way, is a living, breathing entity that has its own rights and values, just as we should, right? That we often disregard and don't prioritize. And eventually, if the Earth wants to, we have to also remember, and this is something that we constantly forget. We think we're so big as humans, and like, yeah, dude, go watch a full solar eclipse. Like you know, like the planets and the astrological bodies and all these forces around us. You think whatever you want about that, but they are bigger and way more powerful and ancient than any of us, even as us as a species. And like, they could destroy it in just any time they want. And you know, I often question, why haven't we been destroyed yet? You know, and I think it's honestly because it's really at the heart of humanity isn't what humanity has become. We have such a capacity for creativity and love, and I think Gaia feels that and sees that and is like holding out to see if we can really harness that and be those symbiotic organisms of love and unity that we can be. And because she has a little bit more to spare apparently, and a little bit more abuse to take apparently, you know. But
you know, it's kind of like the ultimate inhumility to think that as a human being, I'm the center of the universe, and I'm more important than anything else. And a lot of people think they're more important than other human beings. So why wouldn't they be more important than the planet too?
Right, exactly.
And why wouldn't they be more important than the whole universe? But if you've ever met an elephant,
right,
an elephant can crush you in about 1 second flat, throw you around with its trunk. And what do you think the world, this massive all the time changing and moving and going through all these different cycles. Yeah. Yeah, the fact that we're still here, there's something more to it than just we've done a good job, because we've done quite a piteous job. We covered the ground everywhere with asphalt. We've built all these incredibly destructive structures and ways of living. So maybe there's something.
Commit mass genocide against our own kind, like, you know,
Yeah.
against other species on this earth, basically trying to pillage the earth in the same way. And a lot
Maybe
of times, and, like,
maybe there's a
still
waiting or a
here.
race for whether or not the.
If this says anything, it's that Gaia loves us. She loves us a lot. She's taking a beating from humanity, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's something that should be recognized more. I mean, I need to emphasize that particular line more. I'm gonna watch this back later and write something. But yeah, besides that though, like, we also have like the subcategories of just inspiring people in general. Get up, be creative, do something. Be an individual, but also be a part of a crew. You know what I mean? Just don't succumb to like doing exactly what society wants you to, just for the sake of it, to be a conformist. You know, and find what your true path is. Some people are meant to be bankers and love it and love numbers and crunch the number and analysts and all that crap. But cool, good for you. But know that about yourself. You know, and take the journey to discover that. You know, so you can be in the right place and be happy with what you're doing with your life. Everyone has different minds and different souls, different passions. You know what I mean? And then also healing. Just healing each other too is another thing I want people to take away from our music, because like a lot of the music I've written is from a place of pain and heartache and like going through really tough shit, and like you know, I hope people can relate to that. And I've had people come up to me and tell me they have, and it's helped them with their healing process, and it's like, okay, it's working. Because I had Elias tell me one time, as artists, like, all of us at certain points go through times where we question what we're doing. Like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? This isn't making me money. This isn't, am I really helping people? Is this anyone really, you know? But then I remember having a moment like that at one point, and Elias Clay is like my soul sister, you know, like we've done mad shows together, and we did a track together on my last album. You know, she's like my biggest inspiration, honestly. Like, the way she speaks of Gaia is so incredible. It just like brings tears to my eyes sometimes.
She was one of my original inspirations to get involved in a little bit deeper with some community stuff. That if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here today. I'd have been
doing all the
on my
same
mission elsewhere. But
been on her and Burnt MD down there in Costa Rica with the kids and everything. It's been amazing. But I remember I was going through that one time, and she told me, remember, Sass, like, if anything else, we need to keep making this music because it's medicine for us, for ourselves. And then I thought, because it's like, I always said, like, even if I just help one person get through something with something I created, then it was worth it. But that one person could be me, because I'm part of the equation. Don't ever forget that. You can't, you know what I mean? Like, we're here too. I am here. I exist. I deserve to be loved. I deserve everything I want in my life. You know what I mean?
But you're also getting those confirmations.
Right.
You are helping other people with your music. Right,
that's the thing. But that's what I want to be doing. So, like, it's just, once again, with the synergism. You know?
And so I've said it a few times. I'm going to say it again. These are masters of their craft. I mean, cumulatively between the you said it was 14 or 15 people right now?
Something like that.
Right around
just
there.
added another
We're talking about over a century at least of mastery of making music, and they're using it for the benefit of enhancing the quality of the lives that we all experience on this planet, the personal life that that each of us entertains can be made better by the way that we focus, or what we put our focus on.
Shift the focus.
So if we start focusing away from the music that they're usually playing at strip clubs and on the radio and whatever else, and we put it on truth hop, we put it on things that can actually inspire us. And when we start recording those lyrics in our head, and we start to really act upon them, it becomes a part of our life. So all of a sudden, instead of going and grabbing the whiskey bottle, we start grabbing a green juice. Instead of doing acting poorly around other people, we start treating them with kindness. Whatever it is, there's something to it that can be enhanced by putting our attention in the right places. And we are all in the right moment to put our attention in a new place. So if you're not ready to go as deep as you could possibly go into the music, you can at least get into some of it, and it's always there. It's waiting for you to come a little bit more. Just like Gaia, just like Earth is waiting for us to come a little bit more into this natural way of being again that we've lost because we've been indoctrinated and contorted and perverted, and it's time for us to break out of that and to come back to a better place. So I just want to say, well, first of all, do you have a last message for anybody? And then also, where can they find you? Where can they get a part of the music?
All right. So Kin of Merlin, KINOF Merlin.com is our website. That's where you can find links to all the other artists on the Meet the MCs page. That has our story about how we came to be, booking information, all that stuff. Otherwise, all my personal artist information is on my link tree. You can find that there, or also on my Instagram. You know, not a huge fan of mainstream social media. Did a lot of Hive stuff with blockchain and whatnot. But all the MCs want to talk on Instagram and promote on Instagram, and apparently it's pretty much known as an advertising platform at this point, so it makes sense for us to be there.
Down and in the trenches, such a mission grip of